Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Political No Brainer, the podcast where we move past winner takes all politics and into real conversation. And we are moving past winner takes all politics. With a guest here today, I'm excited to have Tom Joseph, America's Main Street Party. It's the beginnings of a political party that's going to be all across America. I talked to Tom briefly, and it's in the beginning. It's a 527 committee, which is a state committee. It's a political action committee. And then ultimately, over time, it becomes a national party. So here in Florida, we have a personal injury attorney. His name is John Morgan, and he was talking about starting his own party called the Capitalist Party. And I found it interesting that he didn't get as far as he had hoped, but I think Tom's going to get there. So, Tom, jump right in and tell us about the party you're creating.
We found a loophole, and basically we're going to use a political party to create another primary system. And the loophole is that if the people who are interested in running for office don't spend money, then the contest that the political party uses can be anything. Right now, political parties choose in their back rooms who they're going to put up and who their super donors are going to back. We're using a political party in a different way, to use an app and a portal in a way that potential candidates for Congress can put their, instead of advertising, they just put their information on the web in this portal, and then the constituents can evaluate them, pick who they like through a multi-round competition. Make it more like making an Olympic team, and less like whatever this is we have today.
Right. And that's just great because, so let's just, okay, you said basically you're talking about Congress. Previously in the last election, we had a presidential election where we really didn't have a primary. We had an anointed incumbent. We had somebody that said, I'm running, and the Republican Party said, okay, then you got the nomination. The anointed incumbent turned out to be not as well as he had hoped to be. Ultimately, he had to step away. And then again, we got another anointed incumbent. And then again, we had no primary, basically. We got stuck with two candidates. And ultimately, I really think people just picked better the devil. But this could change everything.
We're focusing on Congress, and we're not trying to do everything at once. We're going to pick districts. We're not looking for candidates. We're looking for districts that are ripe for disruption, meaning that they're gerrymandered, there's buried votes from the opposition, that there's a reason to push the candidate in a red district to pink and a blue district to baby blue. So our goal is to create not really a third party, but to create two more factions within Congress and balance things up. We want to cleave both parties in two, creating a moneyless caucus, basically, really independent, but they're going to be conservatives and liberals in these districts. They're not going to really be, is there really a moderate? I don't know. You know what I mean? I think they were on a certain side of the fence. And once they get there, that's what's pushing everything extreme. We have to create a market force within these gerrymandered districts, say, hey, this is a little bit too far. Right now, that market force is if you don't follow the party doctrine, you get primary to the left or right. We want to create a situation where they got to worry in the general election that there's a much more popular conservative or liberal up against them.
And it's basically a voice of reason. Like you said, it's not necessarily left or right or center left or moderate. No matter what direction you look at, whenever you look at a progressive or whenever you look at an ultra conservative, all you get is, like you said, the party narrative. When I ran for the House, and granted it was too big a task the first election to run for the U.S. House of Representatives, but I mean, I had the Democratic Party calling me, are you at 50,000 yet? Are you going to put 50,000 of your own in? Then came the idea that, do I support universal health care? And I said, and we're not going to talk about universal health care. I said, no, I'm okay with the ACA. That's my voice of reason. That's my logic. And that was out of the question. And like you said, then came the backroom discussion. Jeff's out. And here we go. This is the guy we love, or this is the girl we love.
People aren't even in the district. They're not voters. Listen to this, Jeff. I'm working with college students, on a shoestring budget to get this thing up and running. But they came up with this idea that the local committee would come up with 7 issues that the candidates must weigh in on specifically. And it has a way that not only to the constituents can match up, you'd say, hey, those 7 issues, these 3 or 4 are important to me. And it may return 30 candidates at the early rounds. If it's a free election, there's gonna be a lot of candidates. And you can just do approval voting. You just approve of those and see who makes the top 20. This way, the people that advance represent your specific values, and you can basically whittle the field to be the consensus candidate, the true voice of that district. And they'll be held accountable because they put their positions in ones and zeros, in bits on the system. So, hey, if they don't perform, we'll be able to scorecard them and say, hey, we voted for a person who's supposed to represent this on healthcare. We wanted somebody who wants the ACA. And if you betray that, then you're going to be punished for it. Right now, we don't have a system that makes them accountable.
No, not at all. And we're seeing more and more of that. And the beautiful thing about it is, like you said, you're working with college students, and college people are more involved, and young people are more involved in politics than ever before. And I would give that credit to one person in particular, but I won't do that right now. But there's more of an engagement than ever before, and that's great. And then the other thing is, when you think about what you're talking about in particular, is essentially what our founding fathers had hoped for. Our representatives go to Washington for 2 years. They say, honey, take care of the farm. Or they say, my assistant, take care of the farm. I'm going to Washington, bring my community's concerns to Washington, and then I'm coming home. And it's all changed. We know that, right? We know that
Yeah.
every congresswoman, including Angela Ocasio-Cortez, has already been there for going on her third or fourth term. I mean, anyone out there is going to stay forever. It's a posh
So it
life.
has ultimate job security once you get in. All
Right.
you do is appease the donors and they'll write you big checks.
Exactly. And that's the giant issue. And then, like we talked the other day about the ACA in particular, they said special interest wrote the bill. I'm okay with the bill, but special interest wrote the bill and gave it to Congress to maybe amend here and there. But they told them this is what's going to fly with us. And so that's an issue, right?
Well, and you know what? We could put positions like that on the ballot for this nominating contest so that the representatives go with the mandate to say that, hey, I support the ACA or I support the university or whatever it is. But they actually know what the representative are held accountable. And we just do not have that system. So take money out of the process. There's really no reason why we can't do this. And it actually leaves you wondering, why haven't we done this before? We haven't, because they like the system the way it is. They only thing that the both parties agree on is to preserve their incumbency and to not allow election reform to occur. So when I started on this initiative, I had two rules. One is that I wasn't going to run for office, and two, whatever I did couldn't require any law changes because, as I said, I want to live doing, not die trying. And I think it's just a futile effort to be trying to change the law in this uphill battle. We found a way around it, and we can create a more popular nominee. They're not going to fix the election system. We'll make a better nominating system and pick that person.
And that's just incredible because, like you said, you're really not able to change the laws. The laws are rigged. The laws are rigged. And you said the greatest job security you could ever have is get elected to Congress. And then here and there, dabble with the idea of moving up to the Senate if it works. If it doesn't, you're still in Congress. Or who knows? But you're going to have a good government job with a posh lifestyle and a beautiful lunch buffet every day. And probably some self enrichment as well, financially, for sure.
They
And-
want that retirement. I mean, it's a nice benefit. I don't have a problem with people serving multiple terms. I mean, being there into their 70s and 80s, we had some people in memory care. This is a problem. They're obviously not competing on a level playing field if they get reelected and they're so old that they don't really understand what's going on.
No, and a great example of that's Mitch McConnell, who actually has a very low approval rating, but continues to get reelected. And I'm not knocking the guy. He's been a very dedicated public servant for many years. But the truth is, it's time for him to go, and there's no indication he's going.
These guys are in the pocket of big money. And as long as they basically decide when they say, and this is not, you mentioned about what the framers wanted. James Wilson, we have a website called Wilson's Fountain. It's where we define how the political committee system can be repurposed to achieve this free and equal process. And what James Wilson, who played a major hand in writing the U.S. Constitution, and then rewrote the Pennsylvania Constitution, he added the words and equal to what was before that, the free election clause, because he determined that it wasn't enough that everybody could run. It had to be a fair process. And he described the free and equal elections as the fountain of democracy. If you don't have it, it poisons the entire system. And Jeff, that's what we have today.
We have it. The money is, we've had so many people on this podcast talk about dark money, talk about Citizens United. I said, look, let's stop believing for a minute that Elon Musk invented primarying people. A special interest has literally called up candidates and said, if you don't support this bill, we will spend $20 million on your challenger. And so but the minute you literally create what you're creating, and the other thing, just yesterday I was talking to Travis Miserel. Travis is a great guy, and I think you guys are on the same page, basically.
On his first podcast.
I just had him on for the third time yesterday. We had an incredible conversation. It's going to be posted up on all the outlets soon. And the truth is that I really give all this momentum of everything that's happening, I give it to one person in particular, because the truth is Now, some people revere him and love him for what he's doing, but a lot of us are just outraged. Granted, there needed changes. Granted, but the wrecking ball thing is just incredibly outrageous. It's just pointless. It's
Yeah.
destructive, and it's really creating a division in America. But the minute you enable people of all places and all incomes and all everything to actually have a voice and say, "I'm running for office. Let me see how I do," that could really truly change everything.
It's what the framers believed. They believed in popular sovereignty and that the decisions should be driven down to the people as frequently as possible. And the irony here, Jeff, is that there's two keys to this whole thing. One is that the thing that makes this legal is what everybody hates about the system. It's money. You can't spend money. So as long as our contestants, don't have the physical evidence of a campaign, which would be easy to detect, the whole thing is legal. The other thing is that we're using a super PAC in a very different way. Super PACs either back candidates or interests. This one actually would be the only super PAC for common good. It's going to back whoever wins the contest. So it's basically enforcing the will of the people. It says you win the contest, you get enough people in this district participate in the contest. The super PAC backs the winner in the general election campaign. And that's the attraction. So our next step is to attract a super PAC donor, a big donor that basically say, I'll back this and I'll back the winners in these districts.
One of the things I was talking to somebody about the other day was I was literally thinking about, and granted, there's no reason to believe that I would ever win, but I was literally thinking about putting Jeff Rabinowitz up for running for the presidency and posting a website about some of the things that are important to me. And one of them very much important to me is education. And I believe we should have public Montessori in every state. Montessori schools should be a public option. Let's call that the public option at this point that we really need to pursue. Because I had Temple Grandin on my show. She's this incredible researcher, scientist. She's autistic, speechless as a child, but now she's become this professor, researcher, writer. And the one thing that resonates in my mind is we so laser focus on what kids can't do when in fact we should be laser focused on what kids can do. And I believe if I were ever to be a part of your system, which I love, that's one of the things I would talk about that's very important to me is reforming our entire education system and investing in it in a big way. Now, and like you said, if that brings in a lot of support, I could win the contest and super PAC money would then go to me. And that's
Exactly.
just a great way to do it.
Yep. And that's the idea is to have like a local committee that determines 7 issues that are relevant for that group. So we want to customize the contest for every district. We would always do an equal number of red and blue. So we're kind of doing this as a bipartisan thing. So if we're going to do 10 contests, we're doing 5 red, 5 blue. If we're doing 20, we're doing 10 and 10. So that way it doesn't look like we're leaning on either side of the political spectrum. The idea is not to swing Congress, to put competition where there's typically none.
And like you said, you're working on a shoestring, you're working with college students. How far along are you? Is your website up?
Yeah, so the prototype was completed. There are demos on the website. I'm now working with somebody you interviewed recently, Ramon Perez of the Digital Democracy Project. He's standing up a beta version of our app. And our next step is basically have this app downloadable and allow constituents, any user, to run through a mock election. So every week would be our contest running, and people would join in and kind of see how it works. And because it's a big paradigm shift, and I think if we just tried to do this in an election without people learning about how it worked, we'd fail for sure. And we're not going to do this to fail. The other
I,
thing, I think once the app gets out there, then the big donor might see, hey, this is what it's about. I think it's hard for people to wrap their head around exactly what we're talking about. So what I recommend, there's a webpage on our website called A Brand New Way. There's a 1-minute video that kind of describes how the contest works, but you can also go to our proof of concept page. There's videos of the demo that the college students build. And then, like I said, we have this app. It's probably within the next couple of weeks, something you probably have on the website that you can walk through, and maybe within a month or so, have the downloadable app and the contest running. So that's our plan. It's really, we're not even thinking about elections yet. This is a business approach of a software company masquerading as a political party to create a killer app that's going to take down the two-party system.
And the biggest operative word here is app, because that's really going to attract kids, young people. And that's what we need in America is more young people engaged. And an app will be a big, significant key driver in that effort.
Well, and using our phones, I mean, it's ridiculous that we haven't figured this out. I mean, people are doing this all over the world. The security's been really figured out. There are kind of ancient notions about connecting to the internet. And again, this is an election system, it's a nominating system. If people don't like the nominee, vote for somebody else. But this could be a sandbox where you can play around with better ways to choose a representative and really figure out how to fix our democracy.
And I've got Ramon Perez scheduled on my podcast. It's not far out. I would have to look at the schedule, but he's coming on soon.
Yeah, he's a software engineering expert. He already has an app that's running in 7 states where voters can basically first register themselves that they are the real person and weigh in with their legislature on both state and US legislation that's there. But his concept is that at the back end, that he's providing the feedback loop that says, here's once you're connected to the constituents, that they can tell their Congress people what they want. And so that the Congress people have some backing to say, hey, maybe the donors want this, but my constituents really want something different. But on the front end, if there's no accountability on the front end, it doesn't work as well. So between what he's doing and what we're doing, we're going to close the entire loop.
I'm thinking that in the future, I'm going to have the both of you on together because I think that would just be a great idea because you guys are working hand in hand. And who knows, maybe I'll have Travis on as well. And the four of us, essentially, me being the, who knows, I guess not the devil's advocate because I'm really on the same page as all you guys with this. I'm really enthusiastic of it all. I mean, it'd be an incredible conversation because, and like I said, I just love what's happening and it's going to take shape because the reason it's going to take shape is young people are getting more and more engaged. And I've seen that powerhouse young people can form. Here in Orlando, it was funny because they were talking about putting enormous impact fees on Uber because we had this big taxi company that did all the business and they were getting muscled out by Uber. But the minute young people stepped in a big way and told the lawmakers, we don't want that impact fee. We want the ability to reach out to Uber whenever we want. The whole narrative changed.
Yeah.
And so young people have an incredible amount of influence in everything that goes on in America and harnessing that influence, just like you're doing, along with Travis and along with including everybody in the process, really bringing everybody to the big boys table at this point. Technology changes everything.
In essentially Travis's organization, the future is now. And that's what the thought. I kind of projected in the future and said, hey, we're not going to do this, continue to do this way. But how is this going to work in the future? And everybody told me this is illegal. And the original concept that I did come up with where the party would fund the winner was illegal. But I had to wrap my head around using a super PAC because I kind of was like, oh, I hate super PACs. And I had this thing, we got to get rid of super PACs because but I figured out a way to use it that would be for the common good. It's almost like a marketing department for this tech company, that it's going to promote the contest in advance and it's going to back the winner once they win the contest.
You know what's so funny about that is it just comes to mind this minute, just a fleeting thought that just came to mind. When you think of super PACs, we all hated super PACs, right? We all hated Citizens United, right? Then President Obama even talked about Citizens United in the State of the Union address. And then Daniel Alito even mouthed the words in rejection of his comments. Somebody said he said bullshit. Somebody said he said not true, whatever. But my reality is the reason politicians hate super PACs now, as of this particular moment in this conversation, is because they knew it could really take a piece out of them. Suddenly you've opened up the floodgates to empower other people, not just Exxon funding Barack Obama for president. Now you've got an opportunity, like you said, you wrapped your head around it, you really configured the puzzle, and now you've done something that is going to be because there's going to be some billionaire out there that says, we love this idea. Let me see who your finalists are. I will fund them, even though I may not agree with everything they do.
They would go down in history as the person who restored the voice of the people. And that's the appeal of this thing. People, why would they do that? Instead, they would do something that would be very dramatic and memorable. And there are wealthy people, some of them not even known, that say, hey, I didn't want to step on this left or right, but if I can do this for the people, that's a big gesture.
And one of them in particular is very well known, and I could see him participating in this, even though, and he is very much the billionaire. I think he is the premier billionaire that I'm thinking about right now. And he may just take part in this because, like you said, it is something that can really change America.
Well, I think of a guy from the 412, and that'd be Mark Cuban. I don't know if that's who you're probably not thinking of him, but Mark Cuban also thinks that the primary system is broken. He's the business person, sits there in the middle. I think I'd love to go on Shark Tank and not for money, but to more or less pitch the idea because I'm taking an app to market. I think if I do this like a business, I think we can be successful. I run this like a political party. I think it's going to go into the tank. So that's the approach. So just get to the next step. And when we're ready, we'll be ready.
I think you're going to get there very well because, like you said, when you think of billionaires, that you said Mark Cuban, I said I was alluding to Elon Musk, but there's also, like I said, my guy here in Orlando, John Morgan, he's a billionaire. Who knows? He may want.
Like the Musk thing, he's somebody that wanted to use money to primary people. He wants to buy loyalty. So I think if people want to buy loyalty, that's a problem. And I'm dividing a system that the only loyalty is to the constituents. Right now, the representatives are loyal to the whips. The whips have control of the donors. And to me, the idea of a congressional whip seems unconstitutional. It's robbing the people of their voice. But in our system, the whip is the people. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, I mean, and it is robbing the voice of the people, and so is special interest robbing the voice of the people because politicians will campaign on anything. When you look at the track record, there is literally figures out there that say politicians average about 5% of delivering on their promises. And it's just awful that you can really say you can really pin that down to a percentage that low. And then, like you said, when you're really getting people, and then what's really great about this is the people that are jumping to your system that actually win the contest, that actually get funded, that actually get elected. My guess is they won't stay in office forever. This was more of a thing where they really had a sense of mission, and they're going to come to realize they accomplished that by just doing the things they accomplished.
Yeah.
That changes everything. Nobody's arguing the point that some of them are really good at what they do, but it's okay to change it up. Corporate
Yeah.
America changes up their CEOs, not frequently, but they certainly don't last. I mean, I guess Warren Buffett just retired after 50 years, but generally they don't last that long.
No, and actually, middle management, there's intentional moving people from marketing to develop to build them. So the idea that people will go from the House to the Senate into the executive branch to move around that actually just makes the government stronger. Them sitting in one position, blocking other people to get that experience. The House of Representatives is an entry-level job. So, that is something that should be, people prove that they should wash out or maybe move up to the Senate and other aspects of the government. But I agree with you that it's not supposed to be somewhere where they're spending 30, 40, 50 years and that they're basically determining their retirement. That's not the way it's supposed to be.
Not at all. And you are contributing. I love this idea that it's an app that you're working with all these people I'm talking to. I mean, I haven't had Ramon on yet, but I'm going to have him on. And I want to really think about getting the three of you, me, you, Ramon on. And because I know he's got an incredible system going. And like you said, it's already functioning in 7 states, which means that you're probably going to be working with him and that's going to expedite your progress.
Yeah,
And
the big part of this, I thought we'd have to spend millions and tons of time on is the security. They already have that figured out. He's working with an app called Votes, which involves blockchain. It was originally developed for the military, so people on submarines or in war zones that can't get physical ballots out could participate in elections. And it's been in practice for years. And there's a lot of states that now adopt it for the citizens that just physically can't get to the ballot box. So this is working and it's been working internationally. So that was a really unexpected positive thing. Working with him, he can just integrate that security piece into it. At this point, where the early version is not going to have it, it's really just for people to play with. So we're not going to get into logons and security and stuff like that. It's just for people to run through the paces. But to plug in the security aspect with a guy that already completely understands how to do that, that takes a lot of risk away from us.
absolutely, it's a great partnership you're going to forge. And why go to the expense of creating something new when something works that's out there and he wants to work with you? This is a leg up in a huge way. And then the fact that it's out there, you can play with it, you can get your feel for it, you can get your understanding of it, and it could just be take off. It could be revered and
Yeah.
beloved before you know it.
He's got a nonprofit organization. We're a political party. So any of the code that we do is for the public domain. The idea is that what we develop here also could be used in state and municipal elections, but we're developing the concept here. But we want it to be configurable and applicable into other types of election contests, whether it be for judges or whatever. This is the first step.
This is great. What is your background? Like, how did you come up with this idea? I can easily summarize how I came up with the idea of a podcast, but how did you do this?
I don't know. But my background is in factory automation. I have an engineering degree from Carnegie Mellon. I started a business that had nothing to do with factory automation. I stumbled on the idea of having people work from home, doing accounting for small businesses. It's called Bookbinders. This is back in like the early 90s, just when the internet was hitting it. So we were at the very early stages of launching a business like that. But I was the accidental accountant and I kind of the accidental activist during COVID, frustrated with everything. And I wanted to do something, and I made a promise if I got PPP money for my business, I would do something, but I wouldn't run for office or do anything that required a law change. I didn't expect to be successful, frankly, Jeff. I thought I was just making good on a commitment and I would make it my best effort, but I was attempting the impossible task. And then I realized that I stumbled on something really big when I thought of the idea of using the super PAC with the party and the tech company thing, just looking at it not just as a party, but as the entire committee system and how to use it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense that your background is engineering. It really enables you to put pieces of the puzzle together from that kind of a background. And then the fact that you actually did a startup, which this is a startup, so you've already done one successful startup. It makes perfect sense how you got to this point. Like I always say, the reason I got to podcasting is because when I ran for office, my whole motto was I don't raise money, I raise awareness. And everybody thought I was an idiot. So I decided I'll just podcast and raise awareness and get out of so I'll never run for office again. I'm done with that. I'm just doing this now. I'm laser focused on this and connecting with people like yourself who are laser focused on making things significantly better. And we're in that position now. We're very much in that time and stage in history where this is going to happen. This is very
Hey,
much going to happen.
you also find this interesting, Jeff, since you're into education, but I also have helped launch a multi-unit charter school system in Pennsylvania. And the election or the school law here was written in a way that they didn't let people do multi brick and mortar schools. They had regulation. You had to have separate boards, separate entities. And we came with the idea of having identical boards and having the board meeting at one time. The lawyers approved it. And so we could figure out an efficient way to basically run 8 organizations as one board. And another loophole, like they didn't really want us to do a multi-unit charter school, but I think we have 11, I'm not involved anymore, but we ultimately had 11 charter schools, and each school I think has, I'm trying to think of what it is, 400 to 800 kids. I think charter schools provide competition within the public election system, and it forces quality improvement. If a public school has no competition, why fire that teacher or change the curriculum? But if there's another choice, then, and this is, I think it's the best one, it operates within the public system, it's fair.
Charter schools are incredible. I have to say I'm 100% fan of charter schools. It's a great initiative. And like I said, when I was first talking about the Montessori notion that we should have, I strongly believe the way it's going to seen in a big way is via charter schools to make part.
We adopted a lot of Montessori concepts with, it's called Propel Charter Schools. I'm a Montessori product. I came from hippie days when they did it.
But look, think about this now. Let's just be hypothetical in this scenario. If you went through the typical K through 12 system without the charter school in your life, would you be so creative? Would you be the guy that's on his second startup? Would you be the guy that did all these other things you've done?
There is something about the way I think, and I do, what I understood is that for kids that are in that 4 to 8 years old, the typical grade school system didn't work for them. It caused a lot of frustrations for people that were creative. So it may have been something that worked for me. I did start public school in first grade, but I did 2 years of Montessori. I remember it. I remember when we took my daughter to Montessori, I saw the stuff and it like kicked off memories. Like, oh yeah, I remember those similar tools that they had.
I don't have documentation or real figures or real evidence, but to me, if a kid starts out completely frustrated from day one in school, it affects his whole life. And
Yeah.
if you turn that narrative around, and we've seen it turned around in with the Montessori being the option, I'm just more and more of an advocate than ever before. And it's like I I was reading about the Google founder, I think is Sergey Brin, and he was a real creative kid. And I just wonder, would he be Sergey Brin if his parents? I don't know that he went to Montessori. I'm not making that statement at all. I think it was him that his parents really embraced the idea that he was creative. I
I
did
was gonna
read
say
that.
that. Provide the environment where people were rewarded for creativity, not following rules. I mean, so that was the frustration, I think, with probably the traditional primary system, that they had all that rule following a little bit too early.
Right, right. And that's just a whole nother, we just went on a whole nother tangent, but it's an important tangent to go on, and it's one I go on frequently. But in for this particular interview, jump in, just go over everything you want to go over.
Sure.
Everything, your sense of
Yeah.
mission, how you got there.
Well, number one, if you really like a history buff and want to understand some of the principles behind what we've done, there's a website called wilsonsfountain.us. Some of the college interns we hired actually wrote papers. We had two interns actually researched the Federal Election Commission regulations to make sure this idea I had actually was legal, which they did, and it's documented on there. But there's some really interesting work that's on wilsonsfountain.us. But the party is on mainstreetparty.org. That's where we want people to either click on our change.org petition or donate. We have some cool merch, got some stickers, our slogan. Our fringe group is extremely moderate. But anyway, we have stuff you can buy. But on there, you can learn about a brand new way. You can watch the videos and see what we have. But we really want to ultimately get input from users and instead of academics determining how these things work, let customers determine how. You want to treat constituents like customers and change the whole experience of being involved in selecting a representative. Fountain.us and mainstreetparty.org. I'll give you all the links. And then there's a good video on the Wilson's Fountain website that explains the statistical theory. There's math behind this, is that bell curves and trying to grab really the most popular center is not the navy and ruby red. It's really people generally left center and right center. They're not that extreme.
No, really, I'd say America's generally more right center, but you know, the progressive movement is not a success story at all. Not many people are like, they'd really rather go ultra right than anything progressive. And there's the whole notion of this anti-wealth thing, but I've never seen any real true American take an oath of poverty. I mean, no one's really committed to that I know of, and I really have been around a lot of blocks and met a lot of people, and I haven't seen it yet. But to that point, I think you're really disrupting the system, and that's what all the brick and mortar Kmarts and Walmarts are really suffering because somebody else had an idea to say you can have everything at your fingertips.
So they can't change the system. We can build a better one. And we now can let business professionals and technology experts come in with no constraints and to build something. I think it's going to blow away the primary system.
I am so excited about this. And like I said, I think we got a future date for me and you and Travis and Ramon Perez. But I really appreciate your time, Tom. Did you want to say anything else?
This is a great interview. Appreciate you having me on your show. We will promote the show on our social media and do our piece. And
and I wanted to do the same. I want to be talking about you to all my guests and promote this effort that you're moving forward.
We got you through a Podmatch.
A Podmatch is great. I've got like 7 emails from them right now. I'm sorting through them now. I mean, they've been great. I'm really enthusiastic about that.
No, we also were using another product called Pod Pitch. It's more of like bombarding, but it uses AI. And if you ever get a pod pitch and you just reply, you don't want it, and it'll stop. So it is good in that way that it uses AI, that if the recipient says, don't send me another one, it automatically shuts it off. It's pretty cool.
I gotta check it out.
Yeah. Pod Pitch is for guests. Podmatch is for both. Podmatch, I give the owners credit. He seems like he has a really good heart, and he wants us to work for both guests and hosts equally.
I've literally been on Podmatch for a week now, and my initial, it's huge.
Me too. Well, I'm in 1 week.
1 week. I can literally go into my email where they took my first payment and tell you it's been 1 week.
Yeah.
I have to say, I recommend it to everybody. I highly recommend it.
Like run out of like people in my niche, but I booked 10 shows this week.
Like I said, I'm trying to book them, and I'm not booking them fast enough. It's great, and everybody I'm reading about here and there, I'm not interested, but for the most part, they do a good job matching us. So I'm really excited about Podmatch. I love it. I gotta say, I love it. I'm gonna go through some emails right after this and click on some more matches. Yeah.
Jeff, great meeting you.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. America's Main Street Party. Thank you so much.
Sure. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.